Hey, remember when the smartest guy in the room wasn't the one holding the biggest weapon? He was the one holding a paperclip? Yeah. And from 1985 to 1992, MacGyver aired on ABC and quietly turned the action genre sideways. Starring Richard Dean Anderson as Angus MacGyver, with Dana Elcar as his long-suffering boss, Pete Thornton. The show followed a government troubleshooter who solved impossible problems using physics, chemistry, and whatever happened to be lying around. Today, we're counting down 15 weird facts about MacGyver. Stick around for number 1 because the show apparently had fans inside the CIA, and they weren't just watching for fun. Before we get into it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hype this video up. It helps YouTube show this to more retro TV fans just like you. Alright, let's solve some mysteries. Number 15. Chapter 2, 15, when MacGyver became a verb, Richard Dean Anderson. MacGyver became a real word in the dictionary. You know a character has made it when their name stops being a name and starts becoming a verb. Some characters get action figures, some get lunchboxes. MacGyver, he got the English language. In 2015, Oxford Dictionaries officially added MacGyver as a verb, defined as making or repairing something in an improvised or inventive way using whatever items are at hand. Now, here's where it gets nerdy, but in the best way. There's a difference between Oxford Dictionaries and the full Oxford English Dictionary, which is basically the Hall of Fame for words. The OED didn't publish its entry for MacGyver until 2019, and then in 2022, Merriam-Webster added it too. Very few fictional characters ever get to make that jump. Sherlock Holmes didn't, Magnum didn't, Indiana Jones even didn't. But a guy who once stopped a chemical leak with a chocolate bar, well, he did. And the dictionaries were honestly pretty late to the party. As early as 1989, Richard Dean Anderson was on the Arsenio Hall show laughing about the fact that people were already using MacGyver as slang for pulling off the impossible with nothing but garbage and some confidence. By 1992, the verb was showing up in print, which meant that someone somewhere was casually writing, "Well, I MacGyvered it," in a sentence, and nobody questioned it. MacGyver survived. Blockbuster died. VHS died too. But MacGyver, it survived as grammar. Quite possible the most untouchable legacy any TV character has ever pulled off. Number 14. The no-gun rule defined the entire show. Now, from the very first episode, Chapter 3, 14, the creative rule that shaped the show, Henry Winkler, MacGyver was built on the genuinely radical idea for 80s television. What if the hero never picked up a gun? Creator Lee David Slotto and executive producer Henry Winkler wanted a character who solved problems without firepower. So instead of bullets, he used physics. Instead of ammunition, ingenuity. And Richard Dean Anderson was completely on board. But there was a technical asterisk. MacGyver does fire an automatic rifle in the pilot during the opening mission, but almost immediately after that, the rule was locked in permanently. And the reason was less philosophical than it was practical. A gun, it's a shortcut. The second that Max got one, the tension disappears. Every problem has the same answer. You take it away, and suddenly every locked door, every ticking bomb, every armed adversary becomes a puzzle instead of a shootout. The rule became so central to the show's identity that writers reportedly joked that if MacGyver ever carried a gun again, it would be to shoot the writer who suggested it. And to anchor it emotionally, the show built a philosophy into Mac's backstory. In the episode Blood Brothers, we learned that MacGyver was involved in a childhood accident where a friend was killed by a handgun. That trauma gave the show's most distinctive creative constraint a genuine emotional foundation underneath it. Number 13. A $40,000 fake rhino fooled the entire country. Chapter 4, 13, the episode that triggered viewer outrage. MacGyver dealt with arms dealers and international criminals, but in 1989, the show nearly got buried by a rhinoceros. In the episode Black Rhino, MacGyver tackled poaching head-on, and because the production team had zero interest in being subtle, they spent $40,000 building a hyper-realistic animatronic rhinoceros. It looked disturbingly real. So real that when the episode aired, ABC's phone lines lit up. Viewers were furious.
animal rights activists flooded the network with complaints, convinced that the show had actually harmed a real rhinoceros on camera. The irony was brutal. The entire point of the episode was anti-poaching. They spent 40 grand trying to protect the rhinos, and they ended up getting accused of hurting one. So when ABC ran the episode in 1990, they made sure to add a disclaimer making it very clear that the animal and the injury were all simulated. And because this was late 80s network television, the episode also ended with a PSA from Richard Dean Anderson himself, warning that black rhinos could face extinction by the year 2000 if poaching continued. Number 12. Chapter 5, 12. A real-life health struggle written into the story, Dana Elcar. Dana Elcar played Pete Thornton on MacGyver for the entire run of the series. Mac's boss, his sounding board, and a steady voice in his ear when everything went sideways. Pete wasn't the guy defusing bombs, but he was the guy making sure that someone was there to defuse them. And during season 6, something very real started happening behind the scenes. Elcar was developing glaucoma. Now, at first, he tried to work through it quietly, but scripts got harder to read, blocking got trickier. He found himself relying on others for things that he always handled on his own. Eventually, he told the production the truth, but he was losing his vision. Now, here's where most shows would have just made a quiet, creative decision. You can write the character out, you can bring in a replacement, or let him fade into the background and just hope that nobody notices. But instead, the producers and Richard Dean Anderson did something that nobody expected. They wrote it into the show. What's going on with your eyes? It's my peripheral vision. In the 1991 episode Blind Faith, Pete Thornton is diagnosed with vision loss, directly mirroring Elcar's real condition. Now, the show never turned him into a sympathy project. He was still Pete, he just couldn't see. By the time the series wrapped in 1992, Elcar was legally blind. He performed by having scripts read aloud to him and just memorized everything. He used physical guide marks on set to navigate scenes. The cast adjusted around him. The crew adjusted around him. And when there was talk of quietly phasing Pete out, Anderson reportedly pushed back. He wanted Elcar's real struggle reflected on screen, not just swept under the rug.